Imagine waking up to a notification that literally makes you sit bolt upright in bed, your heart pounding not from a nightmare, but from a potential financial reality you've only ever dreamed of. Your phone screen glows with an alert you set years ago, a quiet hope you'd almost forgotten, and it simply reads, Vietnamese Dong rate hits 422. For a moment, the world stops. This isn't just a number on a screen. It's a seismic shockwave rippling through the entire global currency reset community, a community that has been holding its collective breath, waiting for a sign, any sign, that the grand realignment they've been predicting for decades is finally, tangibly beginning. And then, just as you're processing this unbelievable data point, the second part of the headline comes into focus, and it's arguably even more explosive. Trump mentions Vietnam in global reset plan. This is the moment where speculation crashes headfirst into the concrete wall of geopolitical reality. This isn't a rumor from a shadowy Telegram channel or an anonymous blog post. This is a direct public statement from a former president of the United States, a man who has consistently hinted at a complete overhaul of the global financial system, now explicitly naming Vietnam in the context of a grand strategy. The connection is immediate and electrifying for anyone holding Dong. This is the catalyst. This is the trigger. This is the event that separates the pre-reset world from the post-reset world. For years, the narrative has been building that certain currencies, heavily undervalued and manipulated by the old guard of international finance, were destined for a monumental revaluation. The Vietnamese Dong, alongside the Iraqi dinar, has always been at the center of this prophecy, touted as a sleeping giant whose true value has been artificially suppressed for political and economic control. The official narrative has always been one of a stable, managed currency for a developing nation, but the underground intelligence, the analysis from former economic insiders, and the sheer mathematical logic of Vietnam's explosive economic growth have always pointed to a different, far more lucrative truth. The country is a manufacturing powerhouse, a tech hub in the making, with a young dynamic population and a GDP growth rate that makes Western nations look stagnant. To believe that its currency is truly worth a fraction of a single U.S. cent is to believe in a fairy tale constructed by the very institutions that benefit from this imbalance. The 422 rate isn't just a random spike. It's a crack in the dam. It's the first undeniable signal that the pressure behind that dam, the pressure of Vietnam's real economic worth, is becoming too immense to contain. And when you layer onto that the political will of a figure like Donald Trump, who has repeatedly spoken about breaking the back of the deep state and its financial instruments, the picture becomes crystal clear. His mention of Vietnam isn't a throwaway line. It's a strategic chess move on the global board. It's a signal to the markets, to the intelligence communities, and to the world that the United States is now aligning its interests with the nations poised to benefit from this reset. It means the backroom deals, the bilateral agreements, the quiet dismantling of the petrodollar system have reached a point of no return, and the public-facing financial data is finally starting to catch up. This is the moment where the theoretical becomes tangible. This is the proof that the thousands of hours of research, the patient accumulation of currency, the unwavering faith in the face of naysayers was not in vain. The dominoes are beginning to fall, and the sound they make is the sound of a new financial dawn, one where the value of money is no longer dictated by a corrupt few, but is instead a true reflection of a nation's productivity, innovation, and sovereign strength. The alert on your phone is more than just news. It's a starting pistol. But let's press pause on that wave of euphoria for a moment and dive deep into the mechanics of what 422 for the Vietnamese Dong truly means. Because this isn't just a number, it's a tectonic plate shift in the very foundation of global wealth. And to understand its magnitude, you have to first grasp the sheer, breathtaking scale of the revaluation itself. Think about your own holdings for a second. If you've been accumulating Dong, you've been doing so at a rate where millions of Dong were worth a few $100s, a speculative bet on a future that seemed perpetually over the horizon. Now, inject the 422 rate into that equation. Suddenly, a single Vietnamese Dong is worth more than $4. Let that computation run through your mind. A single million dong, an investment that might have cost you a couple $100, would now be valued at over 4 million US dollars. The math is so staggering it feels like a typo, a glitch in the matrix. But if this is the new reality, it signifies the single largest transfer of wealth in human history. An event that will instantly create a new global class of millionaires and billionaires from what was once considered a niche, almost fringe investment. This is the ultimate reward for those who saw through the illusion of the old financial system and had the courage to act on their conviction. However, and this is the critical twist that every single one of you must be prepared for, this monumental shift will not be met with silence or celebration by the existing power structure. The banks, the governments tethered to the old SWIFT system, the entities that have profited for decades from currency manipulation and control, they will not simply open their doors on Monday morning and happily hand you a check for millions. The transition will be the most complex, scrutinized, and potentially chaotic financial event ever witnessed. This is where the real battle begins. The initial announcement of a new rate is one thing. The process of actually exchanging your physical currency or having your digital assets recognized at that value is an entirely different war zone. You must be prepared for a period of intense verification, for protocols you've never heard of, for forms and compliance checks designed specifically for this event. They will scrutinize the source of your funds, the chain of custody for your currency notes, and they will look for any possible reason to delay, deny, or devalue your exchange under the guise of anti-money laundering or know your customer regulations. This is the final firewall of the old system, and it's why the intelligence you're getting right now is more valuable than the currency itself. This is also why Trump's mention of Vietnam is not just political commentary. It's a strategic directive. His alignment with this move provides the political and security backbone necessary to enforce this new financial reality against the inevitable pushback from the globalist institutions. It signals that the United States, or at least a powerful faction within it, is prepared to back this reset with its full authority to ensure that the revaluation isn't strangled in its crib by bureaucratic red tape or overt financial warfare. The 422 is the spark, but the framework being put in place by these geopolitical shifts is the firewall that will protect that spark from being extinguished. It means that exchange locations, possibly in designated financial hubs or even through new sovereign digital platforms, will be established with the authority to honor this new value, bypassing the traditional banking cartels that would otherwise never allow such a transfer of wealth to occur. Your journey doesn't end with seeing the rate on a screen. It only begins there. The next 72 hours will be a whirlwind of official confirmations, instructions from authorized financial advisors, and a race to get your documents in perfect order. The difference between a smooth, successful exchange and getting trapped in a bureaucratic nightmare will come down to the quality of your information and the speed of your execution. The alert was the starting pistol, but the race for the finish line, the actual liquidation of your assets at this historic value, is just beginning. And the track is filled with obstacles placed there by the very system this reset is designed to replace. So, where do we go from this pivotal moment? Standing as we are on the precipice of a new financial era, with the proof we've waited for finally flashing across our screens. The information age has just collided with the age of financial liberation, and the choices you make in the next few hours will define your future for generations to come. This is no longer a waiting game. It is transformed into an action game, a high-stakes race where knowledge and a clear, calm strategy are the only currencies that will guarantee your success beyond the numbers in your portfolio. Let's be brutally honest with each other. The mainstream financial news channels will not be your guide. In fact, they will likely be your greatest source of misinformation and fear. As this story develops, you will see a coordinated effort to downplay this event, to label it a glitch, a speculative bubble, or even the result of a cyber attack on financial data feeds. They will trot out so-called experts from the very banks that have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo, who will sternly warn of the instability, the impossibility, the dangers of believing in such a radical shift. You must prepare your mind for this psychological warfare right now. Their goal is not to inform you. It is to create doubt, to induce panic selling, to convince you that this is not real so that the wealth can be consolidated back into the hands of the few. Do not give them that power. You have the primary source data. You have the geopolitical context of a major political figure forcing this into the public discourse, and you have the irrefutable logic of a nation's true economic strength finally being reflected in its currency value. This is your truth. Now you must become your own central bank, your own financial commander. Your immediate action plan must be twofold: security and intelligence. First, ensure the physical and digital security of your asset. If you hold physical Dong notes, now is the time to confirm they are in a secure, undisclosed, and safe location, protected from any form of theft or damage. The tangible value of that paper has just increased exponentially, and it must be guarded as the treasure it now is. If your holdings are in a digital or bank-based form, you must be vigilant for any sudden system maintenance or account verification freezes that your financial institution might enact to stall the process. Second, and this is the most critical step, you must align yourself with a reliable, real-time intelligence stream that is dedicated solely to navigating this historic event. The generic news cycle is your enemy. A specialized insider community is your only ally. You need a source that is actively monitoring the official announcements from the Treasury and the Federal Reserve. A source that has contacts within the designated exchange centers. A source that can provide you with the step-by-step protocols for redemption the moment they are released. You need to know the specific documents required, the exact forms to fill out, the authorized locations, and the legal nuances to avoid any tax pitfalls or compliance issues. This is the final barrier, and the difference between a seamless transition into financial freedom and getting lost in the chaotic aftermath could be a single piece of missed information. This is the moment your patience and foresight have been building towards. The alert was the signal. Understanding the magnitude and the opposition was the preparation. Now executing a flawless, informed plan is the final mission. The global financial reset is not a future prophecy anymore. It is a present-day event, and you are no longer a spectator. You are an active participant. Your financial destiny is now entirely in your hands, and the time for decisive, educated action is this very moment. Do not let hesitation or doubt rob you of the future you have worked so hard to secure. Stay locked on this channel, because in the coming hours, we will be your frontline intelligence, breaking down every development, every instruction, and every critical piece of information you need to successfully navigate this transition and claim the wealth that is rightfully yours.